Are we live?
Yep, we are.
We are. Awesome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live interview tonight. We have the amazing Stephanie Pinto, who's going to talk to us about emotional intelligence with parents and kids. And then we have the amazing Tricia LeConte. Is that how I say it? LeConte? LeCount.
If you're very fancy, that's fine. But
okay, I'm being fancy tonight.
You are fancy. I like that about you.
And she's going to talk to us about emotional intelligence for business leaders, okay, which is also really, really important when you are a leader in business. So, and if you want to jump on the Zoom, you can jump on the actual Zoom. We have a few guests on tonight as well, but you can also catch this live in the Live Activated with Sandra, and I'm just going to share it into the other groups as well. But before I do that, I'll get the ladies talking to you first. So, Steph, do you want to start by sharing a bit about yourself first?
Yeah, no worries. So my name is Stephanie Pinto, and I'm a certified emotional intelligence coach. So what that means is really just, I am coaching around emotional intelligence, particularly for parents. So I kind of specialize in really helping parents to be aware of their emotions and their triggers and their stress and frustrations, and really learn how this impacts their family, particularly their kids, their relationships with them, but also, those kind of skills that we want to teach our kids and pass on to them. So, sort of helping them to be emotionally intelligent, be aware of their emotions and manage their challenging behaviors. So that's kind of where my focus lies at the moment, that I'm heavily sort of working with parents in one-on-one coaching and running workshops and things like that as well.
Yep.
My background's as a speech pathologist, so I'm used to working with kids and families in that sense. So that's sort of mostly where I'm at the moment. And I think Trish, once you introduce her, she'll tell us about our kind of joint venture in the corporate space.
Awesome. All righty, Trish, you're up. Tell us about you.
Thank you, Sandra. First off, thank you so much for having us tonight.
My pleasure.
You are such a light and such a wonderful host. So I feel really privileged to be here and super excited to connect with your audience. So my name is Tricia Grant. I am an emotional intelligence expert, and I specialize in leadership development within organizations. So not just corporate space, but any organization that has a team capacity. And I love it. So I started my career in hospitality. I love people and connecting and human connection. But I noticed there was a bit of a disconnect with how employees were treated. And over the years, I started to focus on that, and how do I be the best leader I can be? And also, how do we, lead our teams and help them to feel empowered? And I fell into emotional intelligence. And it's been like the most amazing thing. It's just such a wonderful area for everybody. Everybody needs it, all of us. And I feel so privileged to be partnered with Stephanie Pinto, who specializes primarily with children and parents. But that said, the skills are translatable across every organization. So all of that said, Steph and I run a wonderful business called EQ Culture. And that's exactly what it is. We focus a lot on teams within organizations, and we work with schools. And Allied Health was one of Steph's recent presentations that she's just done, and hospitality organizations and any sort of businesses out there. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell. I also do business development as well. So that's another leg of expertise that I help people with. So that's really setting up their businesses. And I'm fortunate enough to have a great position with a wonderful global company called Draper Startup House. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm just sorry. I'm just got a message come through saying someone can't connect to the audio. So I'm just giving her a message back. Click on.
I love it. It's great to see all these people showing up.
I know, it's awesome. I love it.
I know. Steph and I were talking, and we're so excited to just be able to offer two different perspectives and bounce off of you and your audience. And
yeah, well, I thought, it is really what I found that EQ is something that we all really need to start being aware of, one in our parenting, but also in our businesses as well, because we are all humans and we all have these emotions that we need to learn to deal with and control and make sense of. So that's why I thought it was, and it's pretty prevalent, I think, to where we're at in the world right now as well, because for some people emotions are quite high because they're facing quite big difficulties. So we might start with Steph first and focus on parents and kids. So Steph, tell me more about, what you've done and some scenarios that you think might be valuable for people that are listening tonight in terms of how to start looking at using emotional intelligence. And firstly, what is it? Because there might be some people that have never heard of it before. So maybe unpack that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a kind of jumbly term and a bit of a new term. You look like the kind of concept of EQ, which is what we just we call emotional intelligence EQ. It's technically the emotional quotient, so your measure of your emotional intelligence, similar to IQ versus EQ.
Okay.
But look, so we just kind of use EQ. If you hear Trish and I talking about EQ, we're just using it synonymously with emotional intelligence. It's a bit quicker that way. So when we think about our EQ, I mean, it has been around, and the skill set has been around for a long time. It's actually, I keep saying this, it's really common sense stuff. But we're kind of, it's kind of coming back to the forefront now. There was a really great book written in the mid-90s by Daniel Goleman, and that kind of put it on the map. But since then, we've seen, luckily, organizations taking it on board, schools putting it in their schools and putting it as part of the curriculum. But I mean, even now, 25, 30 years later, we're still finding that we've got to do some work around bringing this into the mainstream. So that's, I guess, really what Trish and I are doing. And look, the strict definition for emotional intelligence is a person's ability to be aware of their emotions and those of others in the moment, so as it's happening, and to be able to utilize that information to control their or manage their thoughts and their actions and their behaviors, and really to make good decisions. So you can see that stuff applies to adults in the workplace. It applies to kids in the playground, in the classroom.
Absolutely.
And it applies to families as well. We have to be able to manage our own emotions as parents. So, we get triggered every day by what our kids are doing and saying, and when it doesn't match our expectations, and when they're too slow or they're too this or that. And we need to be able to manage that and kind of hold ourselves accordingly, and hold space for our kids so that we're not damaging relationships with them. We're actually helping them we're cultivating, their growth mindset and their confidence and their resilience and stuff. So that's kind of where I see it. It's that ability to, know your emotions in the moment, be aware of yourself, have that awareness, and then that self-control around, okay, what am I going to say or do in this situation or that situation with my kids, with my spouse and partner and in-laws, and how am I going to manage myself so that I don't flip my lid, say something I regret, damage a relationship, smack my kids or whatever it might be that you think, I don't want to do that, but so it's that awareness and that management, really. So that's kind of what
absolutely. That's a fantastic explanation, because not everyone's aware of it, and then when they do become aware of it, you start delving more and more into, okay, I need to know how to do this, how to manage it, how do I start? So I guess this is my next question. For those of us that are new to it, how do we start to implement this in our everyday today? So we want to become good at doing this so that it becomes automatic, but how do we start?
So, such a good question, because it is a bit of a minefield. When you look at the breadth of emotional intelligence, you can see like there's 26 competencies, which are individual skill sets within this huge area. And like, when Trish and I sort of were learning about this and getting certified and becoming coaches and trainers in it, it's overwhelming to think, gosh, this actually infiltrates every area of your life. So to kind of break it down simply and to think, where do I start with this? We first have to look at our self-awareness. Like if you think of a bit of a window shape, there's 4 quadrants in emotional intelligence. And the first one is where we always start. It's self-awareness. So you need to have that awareness and that understanding and recognizing in the moment your feelings, your strengths, your weaknesses, what you're good at, what you struggle with, your patterns of behavior. Oh, I always flip my lid at this. Oh, the kids bug me whenever they do that.
Yeah, so really being aware of your triggers and stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a huge one. Tricia and I are doing group coaching at the moment for parents, group coaching program. And we both said we need to put triggers in, like, first or second week, because this is a huge thing.
Yeah.
That bloody hell, even me as a parent,
Yeah.
like my husband will say, Steph, that's not very EQ of you.
But it just shows that you're human, and even for you, it's a muscle and a skill that you have to practice. It doesn't
100%.
just come like that. It's just something that you need to work on. And I'm sure even when you do have the skills, you still will have moments of being human and losing it, because it just happens.
Yeah.
It's when it happens consistently and you start to feel the brunt of that, as I'm a bad parent, my kids are unhappy because all I do is yell and scream and and all that kind of thing, is when you kind of got to go, okay, what do I need to fix here? What do I need to change?
Yeah, 100%. You've got to start when you think, gosh, what do I need to change here? Or I don't like being like this. I've got a parent who I'm coaching at the moment, and she said, I hate the way I am, and I know why I am this way. It's because both of my parents in their individual way were the same. It was seen and not be heard. Don't come into our bed at night even if you're sick. We don't want to hear it. Don't show your emotions. They're, keep them to yourself and just be happy and polite and kind, whatever. And you've got to build that. You've got to first kind of raise that awareness of, oh, okay, so I've got this pattern. I don't like it. I want to change something about it. So we start with that self-awareness, so that you can see where are your patterns of your triggers, what causes, what's a setting condition to it, what's the actual trigger, what do you do, how do you respond, or how do you react, and then how do I want to change that? So looking at practical little changes of, I don't like how I snap at my kids, but I know I do it every time they are late out the door in the morning. They make me late.
Mornings are probably the biggest trigger for a lot of parents that are, rushing off to get themselves to work as well. But I mean, and even not so much now, but still being at home and homeschooling their kids, or I don't like using that word, supervising their online learning. Is a trigger as well, because it's hard to manage. It's hard to manage. But it's interesting that you said too that you need to kind of really dig deep into how were you brought up as a child as well, and what, I guess, rules or beliefs have you had around how you need to be or how children need to be, and is what may be triggering you or affecting how you're dealing with your own children?
Yeah, that's so true. You've got to do that deep kind of inner work, which is, it might even be just chatting with someone, with a close friend or someone you can confide in, or it could be someone, like a coach or someone like myself. And you have to really delve into that stuff and think, okay, I realize that, like for me, I know the reason why I was so shy, so anxious as a kid, hated confrontation. I even still do now. But, Sandra's known me for a long time and has known that I've come out of my shell because of the work that I've been doing. And I think, goodness me, I can see that in both of my parents right now. They will skirt around issues, and they're not blunt or upfront or assertive. And now it rattles me. And I think this stuff is not serving me. It's causing me, it was stressful, it was overwhelming. I would struggle to get up in public and speak. I was always questioning myself and if I was doing the right thing, and if I was saying anything that made sense, or if I sounded silly or dumb. It was just, you can see where those patterns come from. And literally, like, it's those, in terms of parenting, it's really key to know and be aware of your paradigms, which are just your sets of beliefs around an issue or a topic, or some kind of parenting style that you have. And so for me, it was, not wanting to get into conflict, not wanting confrontation, being quiet, keeping the peace, being a people pleaser.
Yeah.
If you look at the things, the habits or the beliefs that you have around your kids, maybe it's kids need to always finish dinner before they can leave the table. Kids should be seen, not heard. Being angry or frustrated or furious is bad. It's all those kind of paradigms or beliefs that you have that you need to question, because one, they may well not be serving you. They may be causing you stress and frustration and clashing with your kids and arguing with your partner. Look at where you got those from. 9 times out of 10, it will be from your upbringing and how you were brought up as a child, or it's just some other experiences that you've had that kind of layer on each other from day dot to now.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
your lens. It's how you interpret the world, but
Yeah.
sometimes you need to get rid of them or challenge them.
Yeah, it's so true. So completely true. Like that really resonates with me. It's funny, my parents are complete opposite to yours. It was confrontation drama, confrontation drama. The more of it, the better. It still is, yeah.
Wow.
But I've had to learn to not be that person. And that's hard. It's hard when
Yeah.
you've been brought up in a certain way. Yeah, so it takes time and it takes work. So, don't beat yourself up if you don't get this straight away, because it's a process.
Yeah, it's a habit. You've got to unlearn it. It's
Yeah,
like doing something again and again. And to be honest, they're unconscious. These paradigms are unconscious, the way we act, our patterns of behavior, the way I snap like this, or the way I let this go because I can't confront it. Like they're patterns of behavior that you have to think, oh, sometimes they're blind spots. And someone close to you, maybe your husband, will point them out, and you're like,
yes.
oh.
That's how I started to become more aware of certain things that were triggers for him, but I didn't realize that I was doing that. But then when I dug deep, I went, well, and I looked at how I was brought up. It was, yeah, I can see where they came from, and it was just the way that you dealt with situations, or that how when you say things without thinking about what you're saying
Yeah.
first in the heat of the moment, and yeah, just to reel that in, that kind of thing, because once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah, and it can be quite damaging.
Yeah,
Kind of the
absolutely.
worst end of the scale when you
Yeah,
do things like that. When the worst end of the scale really is like abusive, physically or otherwise abusive
of course.
parents, where they snap, they can't control their anger, they can't control their fury. They have an element of I need to control my kids in the situation, and when they're doing things and where they're going and what they're saying, and that's almost like the lowest EQ in a
Yeah,
sense, because you're unable to rein in, like you said, your emotions, and like think of the ripple effects that has on your kids and your spouse, like them and their schooling. And kids at school cannot learn if they are flooded with emotions and cortisol and
yeah, absolutely.
stress hormones. So
Yeah.
it's
And then
yeah.
there's all other layers, are the kids struggling in school, or are they doing well in school? Or, like, or do they have a learning difficulty, or don't they? Like, they are all different layers that you need to kind of navigate around, as well as everything else.
Yeah, kids
Yeah.
are holistic, and they're
Mm.
they're onions in a way.
Yeah,
There's so many
absolutely.
layers to them, and there's something really interesting. I'll just quickly talk about, is this feeling learning connection, and it's the concept that it applies to kids and adults, but let's just talk about kids for the time being. When kids are let's say in the classroom at school, and they are flooded with, let's say, unpleasant or negative emotions like stress or worry or anxiety or frustration or anger, any of those kind of negative ones. Let's say their parents had a giant argument before school, or their parents are separating, or someone's about to beat them up at recess and they know it. Think about the emotions and like the actual hormones and the chemicals released in the brain flood the body, and they flood the brain, and it literally cuts off access to the rational brain, the neocortex, where there's thinking and learning and memory, short-term memory and problem solving, all those critical kind of cognitive skills. And once that's cut off because they're just flooded with that, it's like us adults. When I'm stressed or overwhelmed or something, I can't get work done. I can't think. I'm not productive. So imagine kids being in that. It's almost in that fight or flight kind of response, but they're just worried about a bully or worried about their parents or this or that. Gosh, like it literally, it affects their whole day. It can affect their schooling. It can affect their learning. And we do know that kids with higher EQ will fare better on test scores academic wise because of this learning feeling connection. They're able to manage their emotions, they're able to persevere, they're motivated, they're able to study and put aside their emotions in order to learn because they know that's important. So they do better on tests, and there's a correlation. It's very interesting.
That's really interesting. Yeah. But it just, from a teacher perspective, it really puts into, like, with kids that you come across in your class, there's so many other factors that you need to consider when that child is feeling like that, or having that meltdown, or feeling all these emotions, and they just have no idea how to manage them. So being aware of that from a teacher perspective is really crucial, I think, in how you manage that situation.
Yeah, and you've got to give the kids the skills, and that can come from the parents, but also the teachers. And I love that you can see some classrooms now teaching mindfulness, teaching emotional intelligence, teaching calming strategies like yoga and meditation, calming the brain and the body.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that is fantastic.
It's awesome. It's such a good thing. Yeah.
In the classroom, and just even, talking about emotion words and growing your emotional vocabulary. There's hundreds of emotion related words, and yet kids seem to have happy, sad, angry, and maybe and as adults we have stressed or busy. How are you? I'm so busy.
That was that emotion wheel that you showed us last week. That was awesome, because sometimes we really struggle to find the words that describe what it is that we're feeling.
Yeah, you've got to, like we say, you've got to name it to tame it. You have to increase your emotional vocab so that you can communicate how you're feeling. Even just naming it takes away some of the sting. And
hello. I love it.
So I think, as well as all that stuff in the classroom, teaching our kids just to name the emotion, give it a label, talk about it, communicate with someone, an adult or a friend. And then they are well on their way to be able to look at some coping strategies or problem solving.
Yep. Hello. So, Steph, just quickly to wrap up with you, what would be your 3 to 5 tips that you would tell people how to get started, or, your main things of what they should focus on? What do you think?
Look, I think the first one is for parents, really, we do have to start with the parents. Even in our coaching, in our one-on-one, we say, look, you've got to embody or emulate these skills first so that you can, excuse my French, get your shit together so that you can model the right skills and strategies and behaviors for your kids. So, and then you can sort of help to cultivate these skills in your children. So the first one would be to definitely start with you. Start with you. Raise your self-awareness around your emotions. And there are some really, really simple tips and strategies. Tricia and I talk about the Mood Meter app, which is just another way that you can journal or list down your emotions over the day. You can just put them in notes in your phone. You could write them down and journal in the morning or in the evening. And I did this once a long time ago. I filled up almost 20 different emotions in just one morning because it was a stressful, busy, hectic morning.
Wow.
Exciting things were coming up, but I was stressed about the kids and then we were running late. So raise your awareness by just keeping a bit of a journal or a log, and you can see patterns that way.
Yep.
So you'll think, wow, every time my in-laws come over or all day or something, I get really, look for these patterns. That's raising your self-awareness. And then you can look at what are coping strategies or things that I need to help myself calm down, or to keep from being triggered, or even just general self-care. Because, you know, when your cup is full, so to speak, you're much more compassionate and empathetic and tolerant and understanding with your kids.
Yes.
You know, you think of when your cup is full or your cup is empty. You can flip your lid at the slightest thing when you are exhausted and tired and you don't have sleep and things like that. So self-awareness, and then obviously looking after self-care and things like that is really important. And I would say the last thing is for kids, like a tip or a strategy for kids. I like to talk about the thermometer concept, or the mood meter kind of concept. It's similar for adults, but for kids, there's a really cute little activity, which is you can even get this stuff on Google as well. A lot of my resources I'll either make or find on Google. And it's this concept of a thermometer where it has different colors running through it. On the bottom is like the green kind of calm, relaxed area, and you would talk to your kids about putting words to those emotions. So I feel calm, I feel happy, I feel relaxed, or I'm ready to learn, those kind of ones. Moving up the thermometer is like a yellow area where that's, I might feel a bit worried or a bit anxious, or I'm getting a bit frustrated. So again, it's raising their emotional vocab and what that feels like in the body. I might feel a bit jittery or a bit tingly or a bit hot, those kind of words. And then sort of towards the top of this thermometer is the red, the red kind of area, which is, I like to say, look, it's heightened emotion. It's not necessarily just negative, like angry or furious or those kind of ones. I say, look, you could have up there excited, because when you're excited, you might be buzzing around, you might be using a loud voice. And if you're at a party, then that's great. That's fine. That's how you should be. So it's more to do with the kind of movement of emotion and energy in your body. So teaching the kids that concept that, wow, I'm feeling, I'm getting towards the yellow and I think I need to do something, or I need to calm down. I'm in the red right now. Don't talk to me. I need to go in my room. Just giving kids that concept that, you can move through fluidly different emotions. None of them are good or bad.
Yes.
But you need to know what kind of coping strategies or things that will help you calm back down if you do get into the red zone and things like that. I love that tip for kids. And again, you can find it on Google. You can print it out. You can color it in if you've got really creative kids. Design your own and decorate it. It's so powerful.
Yeah. So you can, I mean, that's a great tip for the classroom or at home as well, especially if you've got children that can be quite emotional and will go from 0 to 100 like that. Being for them to be aware of those kind of emotions and where they sit, and then how to deal with it. That's awesome.
It's good for their own self-awareness.
Yeah, that's right.
But also their ability to manage, like, think back to that quadrant, like of emotional intelligence. You need to be aware of your own behaviors before you can manage them. So it's helping kids knowing what they're feeling, putting a name to it, how it feels in their body, and then what can I do about it, and how can I kind of manage this uncomfortable feeling. And then guess what? If you've got 2 or 3 kids, you could do a thermometer picture or poster for each child, and they can see what ticks or what bugs off their brother or sister and what things might calm them down. You might see one sibling saying, hey, do you want me to go get your teddy? To the other. Wouldn't that be amazing? They're just
that's true. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really, really amazing information as always, Miss Pinto. Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to move on to the beautiful Tricia, and she's going to talk to us. Well, first of all, she's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Okay. Thank
about
you,
what
Steph.
she does, I should say. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I think we talked a little bit about that in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I primarily work in the leadership development space, but I love encompassing people and helping them and guide them into feeling empowered with themselves and building confidence and or communication skills in organizations. I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to do this, because right now, a lot of us as parents are also working and teaching or guiding the teaching experience, the at-home teaching experience, and also having to manage their families. So Steph spoke a lot about self-awareness, which is huge. It's always the foundational first step in any sort of emotional intelligence work that we do. But I tonight think it would be beneficial if we talk a little bit about social management, which is another quadrant. And that's really like gauging the room and gauging what's going on within your organization, even your family, but within, let's talk about organization gauging and where you are within your work, within your workspace. And it's particularly important now because we don't have that human to human connection, right? Which is such a big and important thing of EQ. As a matter of fact, our business, EQ culture, we have always said, it's always going to be face-to-face. It's emotional intelligence. You have to have that connection. And now we're in a position where that's not possible right now. And how do we adapt to that? And what are some skills that we can take forward that are going to keep that really great warm feeling of being connected to people? And how do you get results from your team whilst also like adapt? So right now, currently with my job at Draper I consult there for them, we are doing a leadership development course, and it's all about communication and introducing new tactics and things that we can do so that we're all connecting on a global level. So it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And we're just learning and navigating ourselves, me and Steph as well, doing things online and trying to figure all that out. And we're all sort of in this together. And I can't stress how important it is just to continue to develop these soft skills now more than ever.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So in terms of, because whether we're looking at this as a leader in business or leader in the home or leader in the classroom or whatever it is, or leader with your colleagues, working, I suppose I'm saying emotional intelligence with adults. Can you guide us a little bit? And I'm sure it's probably very similar to what you would do with kids, but what would you suggest in that kind of area?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, like was sort of focusing on that social awareness. So what that means is you're able to sort of walk into a room or feel a space and feel the energy that's happening there and then respond accordingly. Yep. So some great things that fall under this when we're talking about those 26 competencies are building bonds, communication, empathy. A lot of people actually even think that EQ is empathy. It's not. It's just one small portion. And as Steph mentioned, it really is a fully encompassed way that we show up, right? So these types of things and this way that we're moving forward, that is the best way to go forward. Taking that extra minute to talk to your team members, no matter if you're a leader or just on a team, and taking that extra minute and be like, how are you today? And allowing that space to be there for them and taking a moment and relating to them. I actually said, I don't know if you remember, Sandra, but do you remember the guy, did we talk about this, the guy in CNN where he was on CNN and his kids ran into the room?
I know what you're talking about. Yep, that's really funny. Yes.
So I go, and everybody was like kind of freaking out at that period. We're like, oh my God, this guy has children. And now we're all like, if Steph's daughter comes in and does a handstand while we're in the middle of a meeting, totally get it. Like we all
just go with it.
Yeah. So I'm going to think that even in the United States, there's this huge weight in the US about your job. And like, you don't really have a personal life. It really is a lot like that in the clients that I work with there. That is a lot of the way that they picture their work life. And now I think that we're all going to just be a little bit more gentle and empathetic. So that's really one major tip. Another thing I wanted to offer and talk about a little bit is adaptability. And that's something really that does sort of fall under our self-awareness quadrant and our self-management, but it's really being able to adjust to new conditions. And also it's also the capacity to move or change something. So it's really like, we're really all feeling that right now. And so we have to really adjust to the new conditions, but also if these conditions aren't working, how do we go ahead and adjust yet again so that they do work, which we're referring to a lot as pivoting, right?
Yes.
So that's really adaptability. And then further that, once you adapt, you've got to get through some shit, right? And you got to be resilient. So you have to have resilience. So really those are the major ones for me now, sort of empathy, resilience, adaptability, and communication, of course.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome tips there, because I can see how applying those three things will definitely help with you, whether you're a leader or in a team, as you said, and just being that awareness, that and reading the room, that's really, really important as well.
huge.
And also reading, if you're having a one-on-one discussion with a person as well, being able to read them and what type of person they are, or personality or feelings that they might be having, you know.
That's it. That's it. And you know, Sandra, too, like a big one that I didn't really give a lot of weight in that last explanation, but it is huge right now. A lot of people who are working not only have to guide the teaching experience at home. They are not only doing that, but they've never worked remotely before. They're used to maybe being in an office and being around people. So communication is huge.
Yes.
So I was actually experiencing a bit of a disconnect with one of my team members, where remote in they just weren't really getting how the communication goes. So you have to really communicate, set yourselves up, and then trust that the job is getting done and that the work is getting done. So I wanted to stress that a little bit, because it's even with your family. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm working a lot, and you know, we've talked about this, haven't we? And how my work sort of comes first, and maybe I'm not doing the best job communicating that to my family. So I have to remind myself, be like, okay, this is my day today. I have a Zoom meeting at 8:30, and 8:30 p.m. and this is how I'm communicating with you to get that done. So.
That communication piece, I think, is really, really important, because we've had this discussion already, but feeling like, okay, if you're at the moment, your focus is your business or whatever it is for you, but being able to communicate that with your family is really, really important, so that they're not having feelings of being ignored or neglected or whatever it is for them. They understand why you're doing it, and then they can help support you for what you're doing. So like you
100%.
said, same with my family. I said, okay, I've got a Zoom tonight, 8 o'clock. Kids need to be in bed and fed and blah, 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 so that I don't have to worry about it. And so they just get on board with it, because they know they have to, because it's just the way it is.
And we've discussed this, because I do believe that if we don't follow our goals, and I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, but if we as parents don't follow our goals, then we're teaching our children subconsciously not to follow their goals. Yes. So we're saying to them, the way you need to parent is by stifling your goals and in stifling your dreams. But what's the lesson in that? So it's, how do we balance that lesson with also being a present parent? The answer is very simple. It's not about the amount of time. It's about the quality of time that you have when you do have that time with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And building trust, and building that trust with them, because don't expect them to trust you if you're not communicating with them, and if you're not giving the reason for them to trust in you.
Yeah,
that's
true.
So all those things are really, like, I grew up with a dad in the hospitality industry. He wasn't around a lot, and and I didn't want that same thing for my son. I wanted to be here at night for him. But that said, my father and I have an amazing relationship because of the time that we had together. And that's really what matters. So just make it worth it when you have those moments, but focus on yourself as well. And also just be open and communicative.
Yeah. I guess it's being present in that moment, even if it's just for a solid hour, but you're there in the moment.
That's it. And that's intentionality, which we've been discussing in our group coaching as well. And so really being setting intentions to spend your time wisely. And it's the same when you show up for your team, right? So whether you're a leader or a team member, caring and taking that extra minute to really give a shit about your team member, and whatever that looks like. Like, I want everybody who's watching to pick up the phone and send a message to whoever they work with and be like, how are you? Like, ask, how are you? Like, I just want to know. I don't have any other hidden agenda. I just want to know how you are. And then follow it up a week later with, hey, last week you told me you were having some problems with your husband. How's it going? And that continued care and putting people first.
And I could think you're right when you said it's that genuine care. Like you actually really do care. Like it's not on the to-do list kind of thing. I have to check in with that person. It's I care about you. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And when we do work with these teams, these leadership teams and teams in general with their leaders, I mean, you can feel the energy of like what it feels like when you actually start to break down these barriers and start to be vulnerable with each other and talk to one another. So it's just a real gift. And I feel really lucky to have the opportunity to help people in this area, really.
Yeah. Thank you. So you kind of touched on a few different tips for, what people can do, what your main things are. Is there anything else that you think in terms of specifically now thinking about being a leader in a team that you need to kind of work towards?
So being a leader in a team, you know what I've kind of touched on the ones that I do believe are most important right now. Really, that communication is huge. It's huge. It's just such an important thing. I think what we do is, we have so much chatter in our heads, everybody, right? And so sometimes we think that our chatter is coming out to the public. It's not. Yeah. so being sure that we're maybe even overly communicating to get our message across. Even though I know you said, it's not necessarily write it down, but with this particular thing, it might even be like, start your day communicating with exactly like what your day is going to look like. It's going to help your kids. It's going to help your family environment. It's going to help everything that you do. And then, so that was one real big tip that I wanted to give, is just really focusing on that. Yeah. And then also, one thing I think that's really important as well is the motivation, and how do we keep people motivated in this time, right? Because yeah, it really is. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't really know how to manage their time without going into the office. So setting goals with your team, and maybe more like targets. And so you could even do something like weekly targets where you're like, all right, guys, like this week, XXX, let's aim for this target, and let's do a weekly check-in with each other, or give your teammates accountability partners, which is, I do that a lot in my team. We break off into task force, and then I say, all right, you're going to be working with him and she's going to be working with him. And then you guys keep each other accountable. It's really, really awesome, because that's all you really have right now, right? Is just this phone or Zoom. So keeping that motivation going, I think, would be huge. And those are just some tips on how to do that, is grouping your team up into little micro teams.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And I guess really that trust is really the last sort of tip, is building trust within your team by being a little bit more vulnerable with them. And, it's out there. And we put this on our group, which is Emotional Intelligence for Leaders in Business, as well as Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. But we talk about, like, what do you do with your team that's just not just like work all the time? Yeah. And so some good tips might be to have, a weekly Zoom with drinks. I had one last night with my girlfriends. It was so much fun. Maybe a little too much fun. One in them in Singapore, one in Hong Kong, one
that's
in
awesome.
Japan. It was awesome, baby. It's such a good time.
So good.
I know, like a bottle and a half wine later, I was like, I need girlfriend. It was so much fun. But that, and incorporating that into your team, right?
Yes.
Like, why not? We're all kind of suffering a little bit together. Like, let's talk about it. Let's put our hair down and have a drink. And I think that's something that I think everybody should be doing. Just lighten it up a little bit and have a good time if you can. So that's my other tip.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was brilliant.
Absolute
Thank you.
pleasure. You are awesome. Thank you so much.
So many big takeaways and little nuggets there for us to go back and implement into our lives and our business life.
Can I just quickly say as well, Sandra, for all of those watching, if you just take a minute and Google social awareness, if you are leading a team and or on a team, and you just look at, like, what are some competencies of social awareness, it'll give you a really good idea. Because once you really start to build on your social awareness and also your social management, which is where your leadership skills really sit in that quadrant. Once you start to build those up, you're just going to be the best leader, the best employee, the best employer that you possibly can be. And that's what we focus on when we go into organizations.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
I'm just putting it in the chat for people.
I love
That's great.
I love this because it's a great comparison to what Steph was discussing, which is really around that sort of self-awareness, and then this is how you manage other people. So it's all one big happy bundle of
I love it. That's so good. So good. So good. So to finish up, what I wanted to just say is either of you or whoever wants to, can you share where they can find you and what are some of the other, I know you've got amazing programs running at the moment. I'm part of one of them and I'm loving it. It's great. And what they can do if they want to do more in this area.
Sure. Thank you so much for giving us the space to do that. I really appreciate that. So myself and Steph, and I'll let Steph talk a little bit as well. So just from my perspective, I'm Tricia Grant. I do very select personal coaching, but I primarily work with organizations. If people are really keen for some leadership one-on-one, I'm open to discuss that. And then my website's triciagrant.com. If you're an organization and you're interested in our online program, which Steph and I are just developing now, we're pretty much developing as we move forward, which should be ready in the next couple of weeks. We are going to be taking EQ culture online. So we can offer that program online, and we can also work with organizations live as well, like this,
awesome.
Which is great. So yeah, it's so much fun. Like we can come right on and take your team and just do like 30-minute, we're calling them like 30-minute jolts of EQ. And so those are good fun. So you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Tricia Grant and EQ Culture.
Perfect.
And then we
or ask me and I can put her in touch with you.
I would love that. Thank you. And then we also have our business Facebook page, which is called Emotional Intelligence for Leaders in Business. So if you're not a part of that, come join the fun. It's great. It's great. It's great. We're just all about supporting people. And there's some really great insight and tips going on that page.
Awesome. Thank you, darling. Thank you. That was
welcome.
great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steffi.
Yes. Yeah. Where can you find me? I do have a website which actually has a free resource for parents out there at the moment who are finding that they're on top of their kids and they might want to keep their kids busy. So I've created a free kids at home resource. Look at Tricia and her wine.
I know, I've run out, damn it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you guys want to hop on to stephaniepinto.com, you guys will be able to download that free resource just for a short time. It's got obviously some sort of fun literacy, language, and fine motor activities for kids, primary school age. But I also, of course, put in some emotional intelligence and mindfulness activities. Beautiful. So they're in there as well. You guys can just hop on and grab that from my website. Awesome. Like Trish said, we have a Facebook group as well. And the parents one is called Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. So if you're not on that, hop on, search in Facebook under groups and you'll find us there. Come and join the conversation because, again, we're posting tips and strategies and information, and it's really practical stuff that you can use with your family, just like all the things that we mentioned tonight. And I've got a YouTube channel just under Stephanie Pinto EQ. You can find lots of little clips around kids and EQ, parenting, anxiety in kids, communicating with your kids and that kind of stuff, managing challenging behaviors. And then I run a meetup once a month, and that's now online. It used to be in Sydney, but it's online now, and it's a free meetup once a month for parents to come and log on and chat like this about emotional intelligence and how we can help our kids with some strategies and manage our own EQ as well. So that's my free meetup, which is just on meetup.com. And you can search Emotionally Intelligent Parents Sydney is the group name. So my next one is actually on next Tuesday the 5th. So you guys are more than welcome to come along and join the conversation that way. Otherwise, just find, Sandra knows, find me on Facebook or, friend me and we can chat. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much, ladies. That was brilliant. Awesome information. I hope everybody got lots out of that. I know I did. Every time I speak to them, I learn something new, so it's great. Thank you again. And if you're catching the replay, awesome. Pop some questions or anything you might have in the comments. Or before we go, does anyone have any questions that you might want to ask them while we've got them on?
Any
Any
questions?
specific questions?
Feel free to reach out if you don't.
I'm curious who is running a business right now while also parenting. Can anyone share with us really quickly? Outside of Sandra, I know she's doing a million things.
Kim is.
Vicky
And Vicky is.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And if you guys have any questions, or if you have teammates and you want to jump on with us, like, we're happy to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah, go, Rania.
Stephanie, what you said about how thinking about the way you were raised and how that sort of affects the way you react to things really resonated with everything that's happening in my life at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
At what point, or is there a point where you think this is going beyond emotional intelligence and there's something else going on? How do you recognize that maybe there's anxiety or something else mental health related going on, rather than just being more emotionally aware and controlling your mouth a bit?
Yeah,
Good question.
That's a really good question. Thank you. Look, I think it begins with some initial discussion and deeper work with, like I said, with someone or someone you can trust, and someone that you can talk to this stuff about. It might be a coach like me or Tricia, someone where you think, okay, I need to bring out into the light these things that are affecting me, these paradigms or these beliefs, or this feeling of not feeling confident or anxious or not resilient, and doing some work around that first. So finding out, Trish and I have emotional intelligence assessments that we can do with people to really nut out what their areas of strength or their areas of growth or weaknesses, quote unquote, are. And once you find out a little bit and dig a bit deeper into those things, you can look at, what are the things that are really affecting me? What are my patterns of behavior? Where did I get them from? Who did I get them from? Are they serving me or not? And, how can I do some work around? There's so much you can do, guys, around tips and strategies, and putting, once you have that knowledge, from someone like us that is giving you those strategies and information and things to think about. Once you do that, you're going to see changes and positive impacts in your life from the get-go. Okay, so there's heaps that you can do initially to dive into this kind of stuff, and just see what areas you can make some shifts or some changes in. And then if you think, often things with my coaching clients will come up, and I do have one who is a beautiful lady who knows that she does have anxiety amongst a couple of other like comorbidities, strictly speaking, and those things can come out. And with a coach or someone that knows sort of a little bit about emotions, emotional development and cognitive skills, those things can be drawn out. And then it's a question of, okay, well, we've done some work around shifting your patterns of behavior or changing some of those paradigms and those beliefs and those things that you've brought with you from your childhood. And then you can tease out and see whether there needs to be further kind of deeper work by like a psychologist or a counselor or psychiatrist, those kind of things. So EQ is for everyone, kids, adults, doesn't matter what you do for a job or what socioeconomic status you have. Nothing none of those things matter. And once you do this work, you really start to raise your self-awareness around, oh, I didn't know I did that. I didn't know that's where that came from, but now I'm hyper aware, and you can deep dive into it more.
Can I add to that really quick? What was your name?
Ramya.
What was your name? Ramya. Hi, Ramya. It's so good to meet you. Yeah, I'm going to actually echo exactly, very much what Steph said. So that emotional intelligence assessment, whether it be for yourself or your partner or even your children, it is amazing because it actually pinpoints specific areas. And that's why I actually really resonate to emotional intelligence. I love that it can get so precise on particular growth areas, AKA your weaknesses. And when Steph mentioned that, I mean, when you said that, I actually really resonate with that, Rania, because I sometimes can feel like a little alone in my own head. And I might be like, oh, wait, is that me? Or is that him? Or with my husband and I and our differences? And we're very different. We were raised so different. My family is very warm and nurturing, and he has a very difficult family upbringing, and it's this, you know, it's a lot of this. And you know, and so I just always recommend, whether it be for yourself or your partner, or even if you wanted to do it together, that assessment, you can see what each other's growth areas are, and then you become more empathetic toward one another, because you're like, okay, well, maybe he's not a great communicator, or maybe he tends to flip out a little fast and his behavioral self-control is a little weak, or he doesn't even know who he is because his self-awareness is quite weak, or you have some of those traits, and you really start to see it, and then you get provided the tools and the exercises to help nurture that. So you're not alone. You know, we're all dealing with other people and dynamic, and it is a huge part of who we are as people. We're just trying the best we can. You know, Steph and I aren't perfect. I know we seem perfect, but we're not. No, I'm teasing. When EQ comes up, EQ is for everyone, and you're just trying the best that you can. So I just wanted to echo what Steph said. When I hired my coach, changed my life. And it's someone that you can rely on and trust and talk about these things with. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Amazing.
And here's
Sandra, you
Sandra.
muted.
Hang on. Oh, there we go. You can hear me. I was just saying, thank you for that advice. That was great. And thank you for sharing, Ramia. So, yeah, I got lots out of that too. So thank you. With the emotional intelligence assessment, do we actually, is that something that we can get online, or something we have to go to someone to do?
No, you have to. So both Steph and I are graduates of the Institute of Social and Emotional Intelligence. Right. That's where we both went to school. And actually, we were so lucky. We took the course at the same time, and then we came up with an idea to be each other's accountability buddies.
And look at that.
And now we're, you know, we're attached by the EQ hip. But
that's awesome.
But that said, that is something that we give to organizations. So let's say, for example, in organizations like something's missing, we don't know what it is, but we have a high staff turnover. We'll give them this assessment and say, okay, well, it's actually a lack of trust, right, and a lack of communication. And then we build to fix those problems internally so that we remedy the issue. The same goes for the self-assessment for people, and we can do it for couples, and we can do it for children. And that's something that it is a scientifically backed assessment, and it is extremely for lack of a better word, it can be very confronting, really. You're like, wow, that is me. And you go through and you talk it out with your coach. And Steph and I actually really love doing these exercises with clients, because we learn so much. Wouldn't you agree, Steph? Yeah. When you do these things with clients, yeah, it's so good. And you can do it with children as well. So yes, so the short answer is you do have to go through myself, Steph, or another ISEI certified coach.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. All right. Well, we might wrap it up because I'm conscious of your time as well. So thank you so much. That was great. Thank you, everyone that jumped on Zoom. Thank you for those people that jumped on in the groups as well. I hope you got lots out of it. I'll check the comments in case I've missed any. Well, there's a couple of things coming up. Comments in there. So we'll deal with those once we jump off. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Wow. Good night, ladies. Go get yourself a glass of vino. It's delicious. I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.